Hey everyone, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Shannon.
And together, we're launching a brand new independent school called Acton Academy Victoria.
But this podcast is about more than just a new outlook on education.
Our school is part of a larger journey that we are on to learn what it means to be an intentional family.
Because we don't just want to see our kids get to graduation. We are looking to raise up the entrepreneurs, change makers, and leaders of tomorrow.
So thank you for joining us for another episode of The Intentional Family. Well, welcome back to the Intentional Family podcast, everyone. It is good to be with you.
It's good to be back. We recorded our other podcasts probably like 6 or 8 weeks ago. And now we're like, oh, they're all coming out weekly. So we have to make sure we're like actually on top of life.
Yeah, we're in catch-up mode now.
We're in catch-up mode.
Totally. So what we wanted to talk about today is a little bit abstract. It's something that I think probably everyone thinks is important, and yet very few people actually take time to talk and think intentionally about. If you were with us for our last podcast episode, we talked about rhythms, but this is the thing that actually defines what those rhythms should be. It is values. Every family has values, but let's be honest, I think most families don't actually take time to name those values. They kind of assume them.
Yeah, and we were right in there where we said we valued certain things, but it didn't inform our life choices. And so we actually had to sit down and be like, okay, what are the things that we truly value? And if those things are really our values, what needs to change in our life in order to make that go from a stated value to a lived value?
Totally. So the question that I want to pose for us today is not, do you have values? Everyone does, but do your values actually shape your life, or are you just drifting into them? Meaning, a lot of us say we have values, but are we actually just adopting our default values, the values of our culture, the values of our childhood, whatever those things are?
Or even just like comfort and ease.
Right, totally.
Is that actually the value that we have? Is that we just value our life being easy or just comfortable?
Right. So there's a lot of examples that you could hit. Lots of families say they value family time, and yet some of those families never actually spend family time together. They're rushing from thing to thing to thing. Lots of people say they value their faith or their religion, and yet it doesn't really inform any real part of their life. You know, they don't prioritize time with their religious community or time in their scriptures or time in prayer, whatever it is for them.
Whatever it would look like, yeah.
Some people say they value rest, but again, they're constantly being rushed all over the place. So here's a reality. If your values don't actually shape your rhythms, then they're just not your actual values. Yeah. So maybe on the front end, it's helpful for us to just get a little nerdy here. And you know me, hon. I love a little bit of nerdiness.
You are very much a nerd.
Yeah. I read Lord of the Rings when I was in grade 3. If that's helpful for you to certify my nerd credentials. I have a biblical studies degree, which is basically nerding out on the Bible.
That's
so
what that is.
I'm a certified nerd. But here's what values are. Values are the things we actually organize our lives around. They're not what we say. We see them in how we spend our time, our money, our attention.
Yeah, you can always say, like, if you don't know what your values are, look at your bank account and your calendar.
Yeah, totally.
And those two things will tell you exactly what you value.
Your calendar will tell you the truths that your words won't tell you.
Exactly.
So one of the cool things that Acton does when you are in this process of applying to be an owner is they have you read a bunch of books. And one of the books that really I think hit me it's called The Frantic Family. It's a parable by Patrick Lencioni, who's leadership guru. And it was just a really interesting read for us because it forced us to actually ask questions around values. And, you know, again, we're the same as everyone else. We have values that we think we have, but then we actually had to take a hard look at our life and ask the question, what are our real values? Yeah. So Patrick Lencioni, I think this is helpful, breaks these things down into 3 categories. He calls them core values. This is what defines you at your best. Like, what are those 3 or 4 key things that are just like, this is who we are?
Yeah.
You know, when we are at our best, this is what we live out. There's aspirational values, which is really defining, this is who we want to become. So if you're looking at a deficiency in your life, you're saying, I want to be more restful, but I'm crazy busy all the time. That would be an aspirational value. And then the third category is accidental values. And that's really that default. It's sort of what we just have in the moment. It's what we inherit. Again, quick example, we value rest, but our schedule shows hustle. And so our accidental value is actually busyness.
Yeah.
So sometimes the gap between what we say and what we live is where the real work of intentionality actually comes into play.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now that we got a little bit of that definition work out of the way, let's talk a little bit about what this actually looks like practically. So you and I had to go through this exercise.
Yes.
And it was a good exercise, and we talked a lot about different things. I remember you being really, really assertive that one of our key values as a family was kindness. And I had to kind of call you out on that. I was like, listen, I know this is a good value, but I think it's an aspirational value. And it's not that, we're mean people all the time, but
all the time?
We're not mean people all the time.
Oh, gosh.
But when we looked at the way our kids treated each other, or even just the way that we approach things, we cared a lot about truth.
Yeah.
So we're kind of we're a blunt people.
We're a blunt people.
Truth was a value for us. Authenticity. Kindness was a work in progress.
It's a work
value.
in progress.
And so it showed us, hey, we probably need to spend some time as a family thinking through how we foster spaces where we're teaching our kids and actually modeling to our kids, because you and I, again, we can be blunt, we can be straightforward. We're both strong personalities that can kind of clash a little bit.
Heads.
Right. And we're not always the most calm and kind with each other. And so we're learning to do that. But you had this great example that I think is maybe even more helpful. And you talked about this with our marriage.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I think it was right after we had our second child, where we just kind of came to the realization that our marriage wasn't as strong as we actually needed it to be. We both realized that if our family is going to be strong, like if we're going to love our kids well, then our marriage has to be strong. If we're going to love our church community well, our marriage has to be strong. If we're going to be good business partners,
at that time, we didn't know we were going to be business partners.
No, we didn't know that. But if your marriage is weak, you kind of go out into the world in weakness.
Totally.
Because that core relationship in your life isn't giving you strength, isn't giving you security. So we realized that our marriage wasn't as strong as we actually wanted it to be. And we realized that we didn't have a lot of space for connection, to actually pour into each other, to invest in each other. And so we said, okay, if our marriage is one of our top priorities.
Well, let's pause here for a second, because I think we need to draw out what the value was. So what was the stated value for our marriage?
I think it was that you and I were very strong together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe the way I would state it is we valued a deep unity and intimacy in our marriage.
Yeah, I could say that.
Like we wanted to be a couple who, like, our relationship was unified, where we were on the same page and we were connected.
Yeah. And we realized we weren't always on the same page, or I think maybe rarely we were on the same page at that season in life.
Yeah, we were fighting
a lot. We didn't agree on parenting. We didn't agree on how we needed to show up in our church community, or what work was going to look like for both of us. So there was just a lot of areas where we were clashing, and we just wanted that. Yeah, you're right. We valued unity. I think if we were going to state a value, we valued unity between the two of us. And so we had to make a change, because we looked at our schedule and we said, okay, well, there's not really spaces in there for us to connect, where we have side-by-side activities, because that's how you connect. And there wasn't spaces for me, it's very relational. I need to connect through sharing my heart and hearing your heart and actually connecting on like an emotional level. And we didn't have spaces for that.
Yeah. And
so we actually switched up our life. We instituted a plan where we could build those things into our life. I'll let you share about that.
I think what ended up happening is we came to this crisis point where we looked at our life, and if you had asked us, do you value unity in your marriage? We would have said 100%.
Yeah.
Like, this is so important for us. I'm a full-time vocational church person. Yeah. And one of the things I do is marriage counseling for people. And so I care a lot about this. And I train other people in this. And so the irony here is not lost on me.
No.
In the midst of all of that, we weren't necessarily connecting in the way that we felt like we should be, in the way that we wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening is we took a step back and we had to evaluate, is our value actually being lived out in our rhythms? the things that we daily do. And we realized that there was a gap between our stated values and our lived values.
Yes.
And so that caused us to actually take a step back and say, how do we get to being the kind of unified couple that we want it to be? And that forced us to actually evaluate our calendar and change our rhythms.
Our calendar.
So, hon, how did the value change, that value shift of saying we want to move from this lived value to this stated value? What were those intentional rhythms that we did in order to build that unity?
Yeah, well, we realized that we needed time. We actually needed you and me time to connect, but we were in a season of COVID.
Yeah.
Like our second was born right at the height of lockdowns and COVID. So we're like, well, we can't go out. There's like every restaurant is closed.
Yeah.
Like also we can't afford that. We can't afford babysitters. Like there was a whole bunch of things that was stopping us from saying like, okay, well, we can't just have a date night every week. But we recognized we needed a date time every week. So we looked at our calendar and said, okay, our kids nap every Saturday afternoon. So
I wish that was still the case.
I so wish that was still true. Quiet time is not so quiet anymore.
No, there's no quiet time anymore.
But at that season of life, we did. They napped on Saturday afternoons. And so you and I said, okay, so from say 2 to 4 every Saturday afternoon, that is our date time where we sit on the couch and we talk and we just connect and we spend that 2 hours just being together and talking.
Well, it's important to note that when your values start to shape your rhythms, it doesn't just shape what you say yes to, it also shapes what you say no to.
Yeah.
And so as we started to build these new habits into our life, then we actually had to say no to things. So people would be like, hey, do you want to hang out on a Saturday afternoon? We'd be like,
actually, no, we can't. Like, we're busy.
Yeah.
We have plans. Standing plans.
Yeah. Yeah. And that wasn't the only rhythm. I think as we continue to recognize we have these limited spaces where we have time to really connect together. And it was essentially Saturdays because I work most of the day on Sunday and evenings.
Yeah. So then we switched it to saying like, okay, we need spaces where we can just have fun together. So we instituted Friday night movie night with popcorn.
And drinks.
And
yeah, so Shannon has her gin and tonic. I have a rum and Coke, and we sit down with a big buttery
bowl of popcorn.
air pop popcorn and watch a variety of movies. A lot of them are not that great, but
and that's a different podcast.
But that was one of the things we did. And another thing that we did for fun was, and we've slipped in this a little bit. But we both grew up where the way that our families connected deeply was through games, just playing games together, board games or card games. And so right now we're in a season where we don't have time to like break out Settlers of Catan and have a 3-hour, game there. But a lot of Sunday nights, it's just pull up the crib board and just play a couple rounds of crib and have a little friendly competition and do some smack talk with each other.
We're both very competitive with each other, which makes games a lot of fun.
Yes.
But then another thing we recognize is that we actually wanted to grow in our marriage. We wanted to grow in how we related to each other, how we thought about different things. And so we said, okay, Monday nights is our reading night where we will intentionally read a book on marriage or family in that space. And we'll read a chapter every Monday night. And while we haven't always been really consistent with that one, it's been like a year and a half. We're trying to get through this current book.
And it's not even because it's a bad book. It's a great book.
It's a great book, but we just forget. But that was one of those things that we said, okay, so here's a space where we can be intentional and grow in our knowledge, in the questions we want to ask each other, like just to help deepen that relationship.
Yeah. So we really had these 4 touch points. It was kind of a Monday night intentional, let's grow together. A Friday night, just fun. Really easygoing. It's not super interactive. It's just let's relax together and have some fun together. Saturday, which was, hey, we really need this like face-to-face intentional, hear each other's hearts, check in with each other, figure out what's going on for the week. So it was a mix of kind of business and heart stuff.
Yeah.
And then Sunday nights, which was just, again, some play together. And so that has been a really helpful rhythm. And I do think as we continue to hang out with other people and hear what they're going through, some of these things have been so helpful in building that unity piece.
Absolutely.
I think another really important realm where we've seen values play out in our lives is really around action, around school choice.
Yeah. It's something we talked a lot about and we thought a lot about, and it has informed how the fact that we're building a school is an outworking of our values, and the type of school that we're building is an outworking of our values.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to deep dive because we've talked about this a lot, but I even had a conversation this week with a close friend who, was like, Andrew, faith is so important to you and to Shannon. Like it literally defines everything that you do. So I don't understand why you wouldn't want to start a school that's a faith-based school. And there were a number of reasons that I shared with him, but all of those reasons came from values that actually are an outworking of our faith. One of the things that we deeply valued was that our kids would actually be in an environment that would help them wrestle with their faith, like really see what other people believe and see what they thought and have to really think through, why do I believe what I believe?
Yeah, we wanted them to have the ability to ask really good questions and be asked really good questions, which would help them think through what I believe, but also have it be in a space where it's not punitive for what they believe, where that's not every space. And we can recognize that there's lots of spaces where you bring your values into it and it is a punitive situation.
Right. It's not welcome
it's not welcome.
It's like, this is a space where you can't share what you think or why you think that, or these particular beliefs, they're not okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things we loved about Acton was that it actually really did strive to be a space where the adults in the room weren't the ones who were bringing their values into it. It was a space where the children could actually share their values. And that was really what I said to my friend. He's like, why wouldn't you send them to, a faith-based school or start a faith-based school? And I said, well, because one of our values is that we actually believe that the parents are the primary people who should be sharing these things with their kids. They should be the primary influence. And one of Acton's commitments is that we will never get between a parent and their children in these types of conversations.
Yeah. Like we value the development, like the moral, spiritual development of our children so much that we are not willing to outsource that to a school. That we want to be the people we believe that is a parent's role. It's not a different adult or an institution that should necessarily be doing that for our kids, but that we are the primary kind of influencers of our kids in this stage in their life. Like that is not for every stage.
No.
But in this young years, we believe that's our role.
Well, and it's not even that we don't think there should be other people involved in that process. Like obviously we have a huge community and we're so thankful that other adults in our community are sharing in that. But we felt like we needed to be the people who could pick and choose who those people were and what they were sharing. And in a school environment, you just do not necessarily have, even in one that generally shares your same belief systems, you don't always know how that's going to get played out or communicated. And so for us, that was actually a selling point of Acton, was that we were excited to have a school where there wasn't a teacher, but the people who were adults in the room were guides that were there to help learners actually learn to articulate and discover and share what they believed and why they believed it in a variety of situations, in a variety of ways, and also to learn how to carefully and clearly hear what other people had to share so that they could learn how to disagree well and debate well and really refine what they believed and why they believed it. Okay, so as we kind of close things off, here's a couple of quick things that I want to point out for us. If this conversation has been helpful for you and you're thinking, man, I really do need to sit down and think through what my values are. First of all, don't make it a fix your life right now moment.
That's just so overwhelming to think.
No, totally. You can't just like go and be like, I'm going to blow up my life. The first step is really just to take some time to observe. Notice, what does your calendar say? what does your pocketbook say?
Yeah.
Do people use that word?
No,
pocketbook?
I don't think they do. You're
your
like
bank
95 years old. Like, look at your bank account. Where do you spend all of your money? Like, is it where you think it is?
Right.
Or is there unintentional ways that you're like, oh, wow, we spent this amount of money on eating out? Do we actually value that?
Right.
Is that where is that where our money should be going?
We value health, but we go to McDonald's 3 times a week. Totally.
Right? Like that will help you know exactly what your lived values are.
Yes. So start with a simple question. It could be something like, what does your family actually prioritize right now? Where is the gap between what we say and what we live? Or what do our rhythms reveal about our real values? And as always, we want to keep reminding you that this is about intentionality. And the opposite of intentionality is inattention. And the reality is that when we don't pay attention, we're just going to default.
Yeah. And when you look at your defaults, is that what you want? Do you want to be doing those things? Or do you want something different for your life?
Yeah. So if you don't name your values, the reality is that the culture around you will.
Yeah.
You'll just default to what everyone else around you is doing. And if you don't shape your family, then the drift will. Whatever stream that you float in, the friend group, the family group, whatever it is, the school, that's going to be what you get sucked into. And a lot of the times, those aren't actually the things that we want to do or that we want to be. All right. So next week, we're going to start talking a little bit about educational choice. We talked a little bit about it. We want to go do a deep dive.
Yeah, into school choice.
But I hope this values conversation has been helpful. I know for us, it was really beneficial when we got to sit down and do it. And so, yeah, we'd love to hear stories about how values are changing you. So if you're listening and you have some stories or ways that this has just impacted you, please shoot us an email at info@actonacademyvictoria.ca.
Or reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook. We would love to hear your stories and connect with you and just hear your thoughts on this and some of the things that you guys value.
And we're excited to have you back with us next week for another episode of The Intentional Family.